This principle relates to the placement of right worker to the right job. Placement of right worker to the right job. Most of the industrial recruitments were done, obviously at the lower level he is talking about, were done en masse, एक साथ ग्रुप में, without any due regard for, were done en masse without any due regard for distinctive capabilities of each worker or distinctive capabilities of different workers. Okay. Implicitly, Taylor was emphasizing upon a scientific recruitment policy. Scientific recruitment policy. Fine. Third principle. Principle of differential piece rate, or so concept of overtime and performance based incentive comes from here. Today what we are using in a more sophisticated format, he said the same thing almost 107 years back. Okay. So your concept of overtime, incentives, bonus, etc. comes from here, which was till that time not widely prevalent in the industries. Okay. So differential piece rate system or preferential piece rate system or performance based incentive, okay, we have discussed it. It simply meant that paying the performers and overperformers and punishing the underperformers. So you have to standardize the performance, and then according to the performance you have to pay people. What is the benefit? Will this create competition? So competition may increase the productivity. Okay. But will this create conflict? Yes. It will create conflict also. Somebody may be better performer, somebody may not be, but both of them might be friends. Then what will happen? So he was breaking the social relations through his differential piece rate system. Okay. Now that is a criticism. When we'll criticize, we'll do it. Fourth, likhiye. Principle of management by exception. Okay, what is management by exception? Who has done MBA? Somebody was there who you have done MBA? No. What is MBO? And MB, are they different? MB term because it is not very popular, but MBO is very popular. Okay. So how do we say management by exception means? Procedure. It will lead to what? It will lead to micromanagement. Okay, micromanagement is very essential, no doubt. Okay, but there are certain things, okay, which are mechanical in nature. Okay, you don't need to control them much. Okay, there are certain things where number of odd deviations will be very large. If you don't control it, you know that there is going to be a deviation. Okay, and even if a small deviation takes place, the output may be something else. Launching a satellite, okay, delivering something, some particular service which is very sensitive, health facilities, something like that, okay, disease control, okay. So there we go for micromanagement. We want to monitor each and every aspect. So he knew that, okay, what I am talking about will lead to micromanagement. Why? Because I am specifying time, I am specifying work, I am specifying performance, motion, everything. So what will happen? This may lead to conflict. If you are monitored regularly and that too with so much of scrutiny, then what will happen? You will create. One day you may explode, human bomb. So he said that no. What is the fundamental benefit of having a scientific management or scientific standardization of work is that we need not monitor it much. Okay, because on the face of it, it seems that there will be huge management or huge micro control of the worker. But what his logic is that once the things are standardized, there is no need of control. Because you know that this is the way to be done. You have trained him also, the manager also knows. So what is now? The manager need not be bothered about what? Bothered about how to do things because they have been already standardized. So more you professionalize, is it or not? The more you are likely to make mistake, or the less you are likely to make mistake. Less you are likely to make mistake. So the more professional you become, okay, more standardized you become, less likely to make a mistake. So he is using this term for that. That under the scientific management, because we have standardized the things, okay, procedures are there, everything is well developed. Okay, there has been a scientific understanding by the worker also, or he has been trained. Manager has also been trained. So what happens now? The manager need not be bothered. The performance or an average performance will always be achieved. But where there is a large deviation from the standard, either over performance or under performance, then the management must be, or the manager must be concerned about that. If it is over performance, then he may develop some new knowledge. If it is under performance, then he can enforce the existing knowledge. Are you getting? So he is talking about that the manager or the management's role would or the manager would actually intervene where there is a huge deviation, either in form of underperformance or in form of overperformance. Wherever the average performance is going on, the manager need not be bothered. So this will reduce what? This will reduce the tendency of micromanagement. The tendency of micromanagement may lead to numerous conflicts within the organization. Okay. Workers may again go back to the trade union mode, to the collective bargaining and so many other so saying no need to do that. Okay. Let the scientific management do its own work. The standardization of work has already been done. Let it do. Okay. If the deviation is large, then you go and find out. Okay. Right. This is a very extraordinary principle used in most of the organizations today also. Right, management by exception. Okay. Okay. As the scientific management as the scientific management standardizes the work process, most of the tasks are already designed in such a way that the workers, because of scientific training, can perform them without deviations. Can perform them without deviations. The manager need not be bothered about the usual average performance. Usual average performance. The areas where there is a large deviation, from the usual performance, either in the form of underperformance or overperformance, the manager must be bothered, either in the form of overperformance or underperformance. The manager must be bothered with them. In fact, must be bothered with them. In fact, it was the usual notion that the scientific management will lead to a micromanagement of workers. Micromanagement of workers, but through the MBE. You can write it, management by exception, as the MBE. Or exception principle. Through MBE or exception principle. Taylor eliminated the tendency of conflict that may arise out of micromanagement. Okay, micromanagement, if we assume that the workers are No, don't write. If we assume that the workers are more or less, they are not much qualified, okay, they do not have academic abilities, okay, and they are basically coming to earn money, then the micromanagement will be successful. Okay, because many people want to be led. They don't want to lead. Most of us want to be led. Okay. So that assumption is not wrong. That if we control people, okay, and their performance can be increased because people want to be controlled. Okay, that is the idea or basis of micromanagement. But management by exception, the logic is different. It is saying, it is accepting that if the task or the work is standardized, then most of the people can perform, if they are trained well. Okay, but it is not saying that the workers are so creative or they have a voluntary commitment towards the work. They don't have. Okay. Just because the work is standardized and the worker is able to understand the task now properly and a stake for benefit has been created, he will perform his task. Okay. So in no way it implies that workers is inherently liking the work. No. He is liking the benefit associated with the work. And also he is able to understand the work very well now. Earlier it was not standardized. He did not know what to do, what not to do. Okay, so now it is more easy for him to work. So in fact scientific management will what? It will reduce the time, effort of the worker. If the time and effort is reduced, he will be willing to work. Okay. Not because he is willing to work, but because he is going to get benefit out of it. So micromanagement works well, where or in certain areas like army and so many other organizations where technically people have to be controlled. People assume that they have to be led, they are not capable. But if you go to the middle level and the higher level, then it is impossible to go for micromanagement. People will not accept it. So MBE is better at the what? At what level? At the middle and higher level. Even today also we don't actually use this principle at the lower level, though he was talking about it. Okay. Because his idea was centered around what? The workers or the shop floor level. So his concern was mainly the production, nothing else. But if you go to the different levels of the organization, the nature of work is so complicated that you cannot do micromanagement. It is impossible. There, even if you don't want, you have to use the exception principle. You have to leave people alone. You have to trust on their creativity and capability. So from this we cannot infer that the Taylor inherently trusted the workers or Taylor was in favor of giving the liberty and the scope to the workers. It was not. Okay. Because he was saying that work was so standardized, there is no need of control. The work itself or the procedure itself is creating a control. Okay. So manager's task, now see, does this principle reduces the task of manager or increases the task of manager? Work of manager increases or decreases? Increases. Okay, it does not decrease. Because earlier he confined his work only to the usual performance. He is saying that is taken care of by now the scientific management. You need not worry. You need to worry about those circumstances and events or issues or areas where there is large deviation. That means what? The manager also has to be on toes, looking for those instances where his intervention is necessary. So earlier manager could sit and say that okay, this was the problem, I solved it. Now he is saying that this is not the problem. The problem has to be imminent and you have to know what is the problem. Go and find out where is the problem. So manager's task also increased under the scientific management. Worker's task also increased even though it was simplified, okay, because it was scientific, but his task increased. Why? Why the worker's task increased? Because earlier they used to follow ad hocism. Now they cannot follow the ad hocism. There will be a count of productivity. There is a control on the productivity, there is control on performance. So now this what? This also created huge pressure on the workers. So even though he talks about MBE, okay, MBE in no way reduces the control over the workers as well as the manager. Okay. Even though he is talking about this principle, and no doubt whatever he is saying is acceptable under scientific management, but this principle in no way gives freedom to the workers and the manager, because their task has already increased under the scientific management. So let's say earlier they were performing, let's say 40% of the work, now they are performing actually 140% of the work. So even if some liberty is given in terms of MBE, how does it matter to them? Okay, but that is only a criticism of MBE. Okay. In general, the principle of exception is not bad. He visualizes that there is a need for, or there is a need to spare the control over the workers if they are performing average. Okay, or normal performance should not be the area of interest of the manager. इतना समझ में आया? ठीक है, let us go then. Okay. So another important principle was the functional or principle of, let me rub. Principle of functional foremanship, which was obviously a violation of the principle of unity of command. Violation of the principle of unity of command. Through his idea of functional foremanship, Taylor accepts that there is, or there are two major functions to be performed in the organization, and it cannot be performed by one single person. Okay. Though he does not eliminate the role of the manager. Okay. But manager will only coordinate. What are these two type of functions? Okay. One we call as the planning, okay, and one is the production. This you can say simply as execution. Okay. So I'll draw a diagram, you can just copy it. First copy the diagram, then we'll discuss. Okay. So he's saying there is a need, or there are two major functions in the organization, one planning and one production. Okay. Based on this, he brings his idea of 8 foremans. Okay, 4 for planning and 4 for production. Okay, let us first draw the diagram. Okay, so there will be 4 people. Who are these people? What are the names? Anybody is read? in charge of planning. Basically, he uses the term clerks for the planning. Okay, लिखिए. इसमें मैं लिख नहीं पाऊंगा ज़्यादा, तो आप लिख दीजिए. Okay, right. Route clerk. Okay, or I'll try writing below this. Okay. Route clerk. Then instruction card clerk. Then time and cost. Time and cost clerk. And then shop disciplinarian. So route clerk, instruction card clerk, time and cost clerk, and shop disciplinarian. These 4 people for planning. And 4 people for production. Speed boss, gang boss, repair boss, and inspector. Inspector of works. Worker. Now see, it is not a hierarchy, they are at the same level. So all of them will actually control the worker according to the functions allotted to them. Simple functions हैं. वर्क का रूट एंड ऑर्डर क्या होगा. ओके, इंस्ट्रक्शंस क्या है फॉर अ पर्टिकुलर वर्कर, ही विल मॉनिटर दैट. ओके, शॉप डिसिप्लिनरी विल गो टू द एक्चुअल शॉप फ्लोर लेवल. ओके, एंड ये सामान यहाँ नहीं है, वो वहाँ नहीं है, वो वहाँ है, क्या है, ऑल दिस विल मैनेज दिस. ही विल डिसिप्लिन द वर्किंग बेसिकली. ठीक है. टाइम एंड कॉस्ट क्लर्क, ही विल मॉनिटर वॉट एवर स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन हैज बीन डन. ओके, प्रोडक्शन वाले by speed again same. Okay, now see, they will plan for a particular work and he will actually observe or monitor this, control it. He will be responsible for the slow speed or the average speed or the more speed of this. Repair, okay, obviously machines, repairing the machines. Okay, likewise you can see that these 4 related to production and these 4 related to planning, they will all what? They will all guide or control the workers. Okay. They are not going to control each other. So manager is doing here what? His manager is only basically coordinating the activities between planning and production. Now this is the concept of functional foremanship, that we require 8 foremans, 4 for planning, 4 for production. Okay, and this is basically the way to manage the work. Now it is in violation of the classical or traditional principle of unity of command. Okay, but you see, here also ultimately the power is residing where? In the manager. Okay. So even though we say that it is violating the unity of command, as far as the exercise of authority is concerned, it is not. As far as the functions are concerned, it is. Okay. The manager is still a manager. Manager is still responsible for that. But because manager cannot perform these tasks, he is not specialized enough to perform both the tasks. So what is happening? He is having certain like colleagues with him. Obviously they are not his juniors, but they will be monitored by the manager. Okay, so the hierarchy of the power is flowing from the top to the manager, then from the manager now it is being divided amongst these. Okay. So don't misinterpret it completely that okay it is only totally a violation. It is not totally a violation of unity of command. The authority structure is still the same. But because you can say the role has been divided, okay, the manager which was earlier having this entire power in himself, now this authority is distributed among two functional groups who are now going to manage the work probably on behalf of the manager. Are you understanding? Otherwise, this would have not been like this. Okay. It would have been directly coming from some top. So it is not like that. Okay. The structure of the hierarchy is like this. Now it is being distributed. Okay. But yes, you can say that where most of the traditional or classical theories conceived of manager being capable of exercising the authority and monitoring the work and everything. Okay. The Taylor thought otherwise. That means the scientific monitoring of work cannot be done by one individual. Okay. Now this idea, okay, or this functional foremanship gave rise to a particular structure which we follow today in the administration. Okay. Most of the organizations today, okay, they have two kinds of unit. One is known as the staff and the other is known as the line. DGP or the police, entire department from DGP to the constable, okay, they are doing something like this. Okay, Home Secretary, entire secretariat, what it is doing? It is not doing. It is telling them what to do. Are you getting? Planning Commission, not doing. It was telling the government what to do. Niti Aayog, not doing. Telling the government or various governments, okay, what to do, what not to do. So logic is there are a number of agencies in the government which are only advisory in nature, okay, which plan, but they do not actually execute. Okay, that means they don't do it themselves. They only advise. Finance Ministry, what it does? Nothing. Allocates finance. Internally it must be doing certain things. But technically, do you see any finance ministers or finance ministry's office anywhere? Regional office, some other office? तो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कल्चर का भी मिल जाएगा, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ पंचायती राज का भी मिल जाएगा. वेरियस मिनिस्ट्रीज यू विल फाइंड they have some sister agencies, they have some auxiliary departments, they have some additional departments, headquarters, regional offices, local offices, they have all this. But finance ministry, nothing. CPWD, it may have office, but what kind of task it is performing? It does not have its own task. It is taking up the task from the government and doing it. You want an office? Okay, we'll make it. You want road? Okay, we'll construct it. Okay. Or you want buildings? We'll do it. You want to repair buildings? Okay, we'll do it. So there are numerous agencies who are actually not executing something themselves, even though they are doing it. But the nature of function is such what? The nature of function is that this function is being performed for somebody else. Okay. Those type of agencies are known as staff. So in any organization, we have two major divisions. One has staff, one is line. Line is in the direct chain of command. The right to exercise the authority to implement the things resides in the line. Even though staff may be powerful, but staff, because it is not doing it, it does not fall in the line. Line means here the chain of command we have discussed. So if you take police as the organization, who is the actual commander? The DGP. But from where he is taking the orders? The Home Secretary. But anybody in the police department, from where he is taking the order? From the DGP, not from the Home Secretary. Are you understanding this? So there is no direct line of authority between the SP and the Home Secretary. No, it will go only through this line. Okay, we'll discuss that in detail later. Okay. So today also we have, most of the organizations we have two components. One the staff and the other the line. The staff is similar to what Taylor is talking about, planning. And line is similar to the execution. Okay. So even if we take a typical government structure or administrative structure, we will find various agencies which are staff and various agencies which are purely line. Okay. So you can say the staff line concept which is used today, okay, in most of the organizations, that there will be one body which will advise and there will be a body which will do. Okay. This may have come from the idea of the functional foremanship of the tailor. Okay. Otherwise it was very difficult to conceive that we must have an advisory body associated with the body or the department which is doing it. Okay. So today it is like a trend, it is a rule, it is not an exception. Today there is a rule that every department which is doing or which is executing must have a supporting staff agency, a think tank type, okay, supporting research, development, academic, information, whatever they want will be provided by them and then they will do. Have you understood this much? Okay, you're right. You have made this diagram? Authority? Delegated. Yeah, obviously. See, if the manager is having the authority to monitor them, okay, then from where they are getting the authority to plan and authority to execute? So we can say they are getting this authority from the manager.
So they are like not purely advisory.
Oh, they are. Why not? What is their work? So they are getting the authority only to plan. If I associate or you are associated with an organization, the organization must recognize your association or not. So your nature of task is only to advise the organization, but your recruitment or your acceptance as being a staff or an advisor must be legitimized. So how will you legitimize it? You will have to give some authority that, okay, you have the authority to go and find out what is happening. You have the authority to go and see, develop new principles, okay, bring some more information, support the production department with this. So how will you do it? Why will you do it? Unless you have an authority. So this indicates the legitimization of the planning or the people associated with planning. Through whom? Through the manager. The manager must recognize, that you are staff. Okay, then only you will go and perform the planning function. Here the authority is not in the form of execution. Here the authority is in the form of planning. If the planning commission was making plan for India, somebody would have told planning commission, no, make plan for India, otherwise what will happen? Well, they will make the plan and put that in the garbage. So they were legitimized as planning commission by the resolution of the government. Okay. So they were not exercising the authority, but they were legitimate through some means. So as they were legitimate, we say that okay, they have an authority because they are recognized. Same way, for them, authority does not mean that they are going to do something. Here the authority means that their role in the planning is duly legitimized through this idea of functional foremanship. Is it clear now? No. What is the...
Concepts which can be accepted or cannot be accepted.
No, why? Not necessary. When you have integrated them as an advisor, okay, in a formal role, okay, the advice can be given in an informal way or in a formal way. Okay, it may be accepted, not accepted, right? But the logic is, whom they will convey this advice, directly to them or to him? Him, let us say. So this planning, whatever they will devise the methods of doing the task, conveyed to the manager, or they will develop the principle. Okay. Now the manager will ask the production, okay, do this. Okay. So it may be acceptable, it may not be acceptable, it's fine. But the authority of doing it or advising resides in them. That cannot be taken away. Are you getting? This cannot be replaced by the manager. This cannot be replaced by some XYZ. Okay. It will be done only by the planning team. So yes, it depends whether it is accepted or not accepted, but the logic is that who is assigned the task of planning? Only them. Nobody else. So that means they have the authority of what? Planning. Okay. Authority need not be used only directly to execute. So they are advisory, no doubt, yes. But planning is, as it is an essential function under the scientific management, it need not be, or it does not remain advisory. It becomes a part of the scientific management. So if planning is integral to scientific management, its nature is not advisory, its nature is compulsory. And advisory तो तब होगा जब ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इतना mature, developed हो गया हो. Okay, then the scientific management process would have been developed. What he is talking about, that the scientific management includes a component of planning, so you cannot eliminate it from the scientific management. Okay. So don't take planning at the level of planning commission. Here planning simply means the day-to-day work is basically planned by them because they don't have time to plan, because they are monitoring the production, they are doing it or making them do, so they are making the plan. Finish. Fine. Is it clear now? Okay. This part is clear? Fine, you write. It's okay. Okay. Functional foremanship recognizes the scope of functions to be performed at the managerial level. Managerial level. Planning, next line, planning is as important as production. Okay. Planning was crucial component of scientific management. Which was neglected by, crucial component of scientific management, which was neglected by the traditional organizations. The traditional organization, that means traditional here would mean non-scientific or which was not based on scientific management. Okay. By dividing the functions, the Taylor emphasizes upon the need for specialization. The need for specialization under the scientific management. Specialization would lead to efficiency, economy, effectiveness. That is 3 E's. That is 3 E's. Okay. The concept of planning, or you can simply write the concept of functional foremanship, is visible today also in the form of staff and line agencies. The line being direct, in the direct chain of command, whereas staff acting as the eyes and ears or as a think tank. So it is very logical that the eyes or the ears cannot do what they want, but they can force the hand to do it. Is it or not? If you have an itching ear, so the ear cannot itch itself, but it can force who? The brain. So by sending a signal to the brain, it can force the hand to do it. Same is the role of the staff. So the staff always enjoys the functional authority, the authority of knowledge. Okay. So when the concept of authority we will study later, then you will understand that authority's concept is not only related to doing. The authority resides in making the others do. Okay. That is a more extended concept of authority. So if you can make people do, okay, so visible authority is in the hand of who is doing it, but the actual authority is in the hand of who is making them do. That is why we say the authority which the administration has is not its own authority. It is the authority coming from the political system. So cabinet is like a staff. It is not doing. Okay. But cabinet has the ultimate authority. Okay. So don't consider this only with reference to authority. Okay. Because what they will design, what they will convey, okay, this will become a contribution to the scientific management. In fact, scientific management assessment and evaluation resides in the planning department. Are you understanding this? So today also the staff is doing the same thing. Okay. But if you consider this ordinary staff with the staff, that is not the staff. Okay. That is known as auxiliary staff. People who do day-to-day errands. Okay. People who go and They are performing the subsidiary functions. They are known as auxiliaries. So today when we see the concept of line and staff, we may perceive that okay, it has been a consequence of the Taylor's idea of functional foremanship. Okay. Taylor also contributed to the development of various types of other tools, instruments, or use of number of tools and instruments within the organization or industrial process, like stopwatch. Okay, what is that? Mnemonic codes we use. Okay, simple as a ruler or a scale. Okay, so monitoring devices, various kinds of monitoring instruments emerged as a consequence of Taylorism. Okay. Because work measurement became a very important factor in scientific management. Okay, so stopwatches, there's mnemonic codes, various things he developed. Okay, not developed means it led to the development of these things. So it was extensively now used under the scientific management. So many people were inspired by Taylor. Okay, like we have discussed few. Now there was, have you heard of Gantt chart? Okay. Gantt charts, नहीं सुना? Okay, so number of other scholars who became obsessed with Taylorism. Okay. Generally, time is plotted on which axis? Y-axis. Okay, so many people became obsessed with this measurement. They developed number of bar charts, graphs like Gilbreth's, concerned with graphs, charts, time motion study, a time motion or work time relationship or time motion relationship. Okay. So Henry Gantt is also a famous person. Okay. He developed Gantt charts. Now Gantt chart was the evaluation of discrete aspect of work. Okay. That means breaking the work into different parts, and then each aspect or each part of the work was measured with respect to the time taken to evaluate it. So something like this, if you take one work for example, something ABC, okay. Something, now this is the same work, but each and every aspect of the work with respect to the time it takes. Likewise, they started finding out the actual time of performing a particular work. What will be the maximum relaxation in the time or performance of the work? What can be the minimum relaxation in the performance of the work? Okay. How much hours or how many minutes you can exceed from the standards? How many hours or minutes you can exceed from or deviate from the standard? Likewise, what they did for various type of activities within the industrial organization. They developed the Gantt chart, or Gantt contributed to that. Okay. Okay. Even work and motion. How many motions associated with a particular work? Okay. So what they did, they combined all these studies, okay, and focus on the time motion or the work motion or the time motion or the work motion or work time motion studies together. Okay. So many people used it, okay, in various organizations. In fact, there were a number of scholars who used this in educational institutions, hospitals, universities, not necessarily only the industrial process. Okay. The Taylorism was so dominant, or Taylor's scientific management principle, they became like a kind of rage across the industrialists in the US as well as in the communist countries. So who was around 1910 to 1930? Most of the theories of Taylor or the principles of Taylor, in fact by 1930 Taylor was almost gone. Okay. But you can say from 1910 to 1920s in the beginning, okay, Taylorism dominated. Okay. So this movement spread to the non-Western countries or the communist countries also. Okay. Russia, just now Russian Revolution had taken place 1917 October. Okay, you must have heard of October Revolution. Okay. So 1917 Russian Revolution, who came to power? Okay, don't say power, who? Bolshevik Revolution था, Bolshevik Party, Lenin आया power में. Okay. So he was also inspired by Taylorism. Okay, in fact, he said that okay, in spite of communist ideology, he said that okay, if we have something like Taylorism, or if we have the scientific management of Taylor, then we can achieve various levels of achievement or progress within our society. He proclaimed publicly that okay, he was ready to accept the scientific management. Okay. So in number of communist countries, including the Russia, the scientific management movement spread in communist countries as Stakhanovich movement. Okay, were quite popularly known as Stakhanovich movement. In America, okay, visible in the form of Fordism, Henry Ford, and so many people were inspired by Taylor. So see, there was no, as far as the capitalist countries were concerned, okay, there was no stopping back of the Taylor or the Taylor's idea. Okay. But in spite of these benefits, the scientific management brought or revolutionized the way we studied the or by the industrial organization. Okay. Or for that matter, the way we used to understand the work process at the industrial level. Okay. Number of criticisms were leveled against the Taylorism. So there was another person, Elton Mayo, okay, who came just after Taylor. Okay, in fact, parallel development. Okay. Elton Mayo also conducted an experiment. Okay, or his something known as initial inquiry or great inquiry. Okay, he also conducted an experiment into an industrial organization. Based on the experiments he conducted, okay, the Taylorism almost died down by late 1920s. That movement was known as the human relations movement. Though he was not a classical theorist, he was not a traditional theorist, but because of his impact, the Taylorism was almost or came to its own demise. Taylorism was also criticized by various other quarters, from the managers, from the workers' point of view, from other philosophical, from Marxist, okay, various perspectives he was criticized. So an inquiry was initiated by the American government. Okay, 1928 around, an inquiry under a professor known as Professor Robert Hoxie. Okay, he conducted an inquiry into the effects of the Taylorism, and finally through his inquiry he accepted that Taylorism has been a tool of exploitation used by the management or the owners against the workers. So you can say officially now Taylorism was technically banned. Okay. In theoretical development parallelly, because Taylorism, as it had become such a big phenomena and now it was dying down, okay, then what would be the alternative? Then the Elton Mayo comes. Okay. But these all developments are parallel to each other. Okay. Now Taylorism, being the scientific management and a counter, they started focusing on the other aspects of the organization. Management, okay, rules, regulation, procedure, okay, incentive system, recruitment policy, personnel policy, budgeting, okay, various type of activities which are performed, not necessarily the production. So you can say the contemporary of the Taylor was Henry Fayol. Okay, he was also a mining engineer. Okay, he was a French mining engineer, but Henry Fayol, because he wrote one of the first books, it was also a book on scientific management. Okay, but or the book of General and Industrial Management, that was the name. But as that book was published in French, okay, it could not become that popular as the Taylor's book. Okay, almost 1916, 1912 or between 10 to 12 the Taylor's book comes, 1916 his book comes, Fayol's book. But it came in French, so it could not become that popular. It did not attract the attention of most of the Western scholars, okay, or even the industrialists. Okay. So the book was translated in 1929 into English. Okay. Then Fayol became popular. So Fayol and Taylor almost contemporary, talking about the same thing. But Taylor was more concerned with the study of industrial process at the lowest level, and the Fayol was more concerned with the study of the industrial process or the management process at the middle and the higher level. So Fayol brings two or more perspectives. We were studying the structural. Now Fayol comes and he brings a functionalist perspective also. That it is not only important to know what is the structure or design of the organization, it is also important to know that what will be the universal functions of the organization. Are you understanding this? That means the moment I say this is an organization or this is an industrial organization, or for that matter this is a public organization or private organization, that very moment I must know that what are the inevitable functions an organization must perform to exist as an organization. Okay. So as Gulick, Ervik and even Weber, okay, they were concerned with the structure, that what will be the universal structure of the organization. Fayol was concerned with both the structure as well as the function. What will organization or what kind of functions will be performed within the organization so that it exists, and also what will be the design of the organization. Are you understanding this? So these people, okay, just as the Taylor or the Taylorism, okay, weakens as far as the theoretical development or theoretical contribution is concerned, and that very moment these people emerge. Human relations movement, Fayol comes, Gulick and Ervik come, okay, and so many other theorists, Weber comes, all during the 1920s to 1940s. Okay. So 1937 is taken as the peak, because that is the year when the Gulick and Ervik's one essay or compilation of essays known as Papers on Science of Administration is published in 1937. Okay. So the moment they claim the post corp, okay, or they claim that ultimate truth of organization has been discovered now. Okay. So that year 1937 is considered as the epitome of the science of administration, or you can say science of organization, not necessarily science of administration. Okay. So Fayol, Gulick, Ervik, Weber, all were the supporters of generic management principle. Generic means whether public or private, it doesn't matter. So you can say that even the criticism of Taylor led to the development of new theories. Okay. The inherent exploitation which existed in the Taylor's philosophy of science of management, it also led to the emergence of new philosophies of organization. Okay. So Taylor was like a silkworm. Even when it dies, okay, it leaves the, what does it do? Silkworm. Or mulberry, you heard of mulberry leaves? नहीं सुना? Silk कैसे बनता है? Mulberry silk कैसे बनता है, for example? Okay. So from the cocoon to butterfly, from silkworm to butterfly, that is the transition. Okay. So Taylor was like that. He is considered that way, that the time he was there, he did something. The moment the Taylorism died down, again it did something. It created a rush for the development of theories in the field of organization. And his role or his impact was not only ideological and philosophical, it was equally practical. Why? Because it provided basic guide to the development of the industrial revolution or the emergence of industrial revolution in America and so many other countries. Okay, right, one question. Scientific management is synonymous to efficiency. Comment. Scientific management is synonymous to efficiency. Comment. Second question. Discuss briefly the context of the scientific management movement. Now see, movement is still continuing, but you don't have to discuss this. It is basically referring to the Taylor scientific management. Okay. Scientific management movement in America. Third question. Distinguish between scientific management and Taylorism. Scientific management and Taylorism. Do you think, next line, do you think this distinction is an anomaly? Is an anomaly. What does this mean? Aberration. Anomaly is an aberration. Anomaly word is used in science where? Expansion of water. Inversion of temperature. So here how this anomaly comes? Distinction between Taylorism and scientific management.
Anomalous means scientific management was adopted by the communist countries also, whereas Taylorism was supporting capitalism.
Okay, from one aspect is that. But another, what is the, can we distinguish technically between Taylorism and scientific management? How? But the logic is that the ideology requires a manifestation. So yes, you can distinguish between Taylorism and, but unless you have a manifestation of the ideology is useless. That is the anomaly. Okay. So there is a need for scientific management to understand the Taylorism. But independently, to understand Taylorism, there is no need of scientific management. Okay. Vice versa. Okay, so that is an anomaly that, okay, ideologically, yes, he was far behind of his predecessors. Okay, he was one of the contributors, still dominant, but scientific management, what he talked about, may not be useful today. But the logic of scientific management is still useful. Okay. Next question, you will understand. Okay. Taylor may not, it is a UPSC question almost. Taylor may not be relevant today, but Taylorism is. Taylor may not be relevant today, but Taylorism is. We have progressed scientifically, so today what we are more scientific than what we were then. Okay. So we are moving towards where? Towards the science only. So we are not retreating from the path of scientific management. We are not retreating from the path of the study of a particular phenomena empirically. Okay. So logically what we are doing? We are increasing our scope of science of management. But because the context of the Taylor, where he develops a science of or scientific management principle, that context was purely the Industrial Revolution or the context of American capitalism. That context may not be relevant today because that was the evolutionary phase of capitalism. Today we are in the post-capitalist phase, post-industrial phase. Industrialization is not that dominant. Even if it is there, it is not the dominating force of the or dominating the social, culture and all the relations. It's not like that. So the emergence of the Taylor or scientific management is the context of capitalism. But Taylorism as an idea is still relevant. Why? The moment we talk about a scientific temper, the moment we talk about a scientific evaluation of work, the moment we use technology to reduce our effort, cost, time, the moment we talk about efficiency through the use of science, okay, that very moment we are using Taylor. Okay. In fact, a field of study, industrial engineering or industrial economics, which developed as a consequence of Taylor or scientific management, is very much relevant today. Okay, known as ergonomics. What is the focus of ergonomics? It tries to reduce the human effort in doing a task or using a machine. So the machine is designed in such a manner that the human effort is minimized. Okay. So from keypad to touch phone is a consequence of ergonomics. Okay. So the moment technologies are being developed to simplify the human effort or reduce the human effort or constraints in the use of those technologies, that is basically ergonomics. Simply let's assume an automobile, a car. So from the gear to automatic cars, ergonomics. Okay. From key ignition to keyless ignition, ergonomics. From the design of a particular seat and the steering to something else, ergonomics. Furniture, everything. So ergonomics, okay, that was the logic of the Taylor. How we can reduce the time, the effort, save the resource while performing a particular task. So that idea is all coming from the Taylor. Okay. Because probably he was the first one, okay, or tried to study comprehensively the work, the nature of the work and the process of the work and how this work can be, or the entire process of the work, how it can be improved on scientific lines. Are you understanding this? Okay. So the moment your mother tells you that, okay, don't cut the onion like this, cut it like this, you'll reduce your effort, otherwise you'll cut your hand. That very moment it is what? It is the Taylor who's talking about. It is the idea of Taylorism. Are you understanding? So how, or as a pioneer who first designs or understands the work, then designs, or by dividing the work process, distributing the work process amongst some discrete aspects, and then designing the work again to suit the needs or the benefit of the people, that is the Taylor. That is why he is called the knowledge manager. That knowledge management is still going on. And you can say till the time we eliminate the technology, the science, the empirical study from our lives, till that time the Taylor will not vanish from the lives. Okay, so that is the impact of Taylorism. So various developments in public administration took place, or in administrative theories took place as a consequence of Taylor later. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Okay. They all were associated with Taylor. So when we'll move forward, e-governance, use of technology, okay, then again the Taylor will come. New public management, okay, again Taylor is coming. Okay. So not the actual Taylor, but the idea of Taylor. Okay. Write one question. So criticism of Taylor is also important. Okay, right. Scientific management was a primitive tool. Scientific management was a primitive tool of industrial polyarchy. Scientific management was a primitive tool of industrial polyarchy. Robert Dahl, even Golumbiewiczki was also of the same view. Okay. So, this is a very famous statement which says scientific management was a primitive. UPSC question we have already asked. Okay. What do you understand, or how can you decipher the meaning of the question itself first? What do you understand by the question? There are two important terms. One is primitive tool, the other is industrial polyarchy. Primitive tool
means fundamental tool.
Now it can be interpreted in two ways. Primitive can be the traditional, the basic, the first, initial, whatever. Okay. Okay, it may also mean outdated or not state of the art. Though good, okay, but not important today, or though important but not relevant today. It may mean both the things. So it was a primitive tool of industrial polyarchy. Now what is the meaning of this term? What is a polyarchy? Ruled by many, or the power is distributed amongst many. So it was basically industrial polyarchy means what? It is a reference to the kind of socio-political system that existed or politico-economic system that existed. Another, it is related to what? The industrial revolution. ये polyarchy कहाँ हो जाए? Industrialization process बढ़ रहा होगा. So one reference is to the politico-economic system where the industry was dominating, or the industrialization process was the most important factor, force driving the politics as well as the society both. The other reference is to the emergence or the growth of numerous industries or industrial revolution. Okay, so you can interpret it through the Marxist view also and say yes, it was the scientific management of Taylor which actually promoted or created the basic minimum requirement of the industrial development, or it fulfilled the basic needs of the industrial revolution. Somewhere it helped in prospering of the industrial revolution. Okay. Or you can interpret in the other way also, that yes, Taylor, okay, in spite of providing one of the first knowledge or one of the first theories regarding the scientific management of industrial organization, whatever he talked about was highly restricted in its scope. It only catered to what? It only catered to the production process of the industrial revolution. Whereas industrial revolution required so many other things. भाई चाहिए नहीं चाहिए था management, okay, organizational structure, organizational design, functions of the organization, various types of conflicts between the workers and the managers, and so what was his view? His view was highly narrow with respect to the industrial revolution. He was only viewing one particular segment of the industrial revolution, that is the production. But there are so many other things which are more important than merely the production. So it was primitive as far as the industrial revolution was concerned. It was also one of the first, and that is why also primitive. So you can understand both ways. Are you getting? Or it was unable to deliver the needs of the industrial revolution, yes, because it was primitive. Whereas the moment we were moving towards the industrial revolution, variety of complications emerged, and these complications were tackled by later theories, not just by the scientific management. So either way you interpret, but what Robert Dahl or Golumbieski or so many people who have interpreted it that way, okay, their meaning is that the industrial revolution was a complicated process and Taylor trivialized it. He made it simplistic through his scientific management movement, as simplistic as only confining to the production process. But industrial revolution was not such a simple phenomena to be understood only in terms of production. Okay, it was much more than that. It was social, it was political, it was economic. Okay. And it was so many other things. That is the matter. Have you understood now? So every question, because it is, unless you know his name or Waldo's name or Golumbieski's name or White's or anybody's name, okay, till that time you may not be able to know the exact meaning what he said. So likewise you have to interpret various dimensions of a particular question. Okay, if the question is in 10 marks, then obviously there your analysis will be limited. If the question is 20 marks, now this analysis will increase. Okay, 30 marks, then analysis and alternatives. Many things will be added to them. Are you getting? So you need not be centered only around one dimension. Even if the question seems to be that, okay, it is only one dimension which he might be talking. So if we don't interpret this statement, what will happen? Most of us will go and write that, okay, yes, it was one of the first tools of industrial development or industrial revolution. Now, the word polyarchy means what? That industrialization itself was a big force. It was a dominant authority within the society. Industries were controlling the society and politics. Okay, that is why they have used the word polyarchy. Otherwise, simply they would have used the term industrial revolution. Have you understood this much? Okay. So, Taylor can be criticized. Okay. How can Taylor be criticized? Now, this is basically a criticism of Taylor. Why should we criticize Taylor? He did what was required then. In fact, he contributed to what was existent then. Why should he be criticized? But criticism is one of the process or methodologies of theory building. If there is no criticism, then there is no emergence or there is no emergence of new theory, alternative theory. So criticism is fundamental to the emergence of new theories. Okay. They were not criticizing the person. Obviously they were criticizing, or many people who were criticizing, they were criticizing the theory, the principles, the vision behind the scientific management. Okay. So number of criticisms were leveled. Okay. One of the biggest criticism was that Taylor neglected the human factor in the organization. Okay. All the scientific management philosophy was based on carrot and stick approach. Okay. That people can be motivated by money. Okay. And they can be controlled by punishment. So he assumed people only to be motivated by money, primary economic motivation of human beings. Okay. Second criticism was that, okay, the Taylor, okay, did not study the human aspects in the organization. One was non-humanist. Okay. That means what? For him, the human behavior was only one dimension, that is economic. Or at least he studied only one dimension. The other was he was non-humanist. He neglected the human aspect. What is the meaning neglected the human aspect? What will be the impact of scientific management on productivity, that he analyzed. But what will be the impact of the scientific management on the worker? Okay, he did not analyze that. He assumed that the impact would be good because they are benefiting in terms of salary or overtime or money or whatever. Okay. The third criticism came from the Marxist, okay, that the Taylor, through his scientific management movement or through the claim of mental revolution or through the claim of benefit for all, win-win situation for everyone, what he is doing? He is diverting the trade unions from the inherent nature of conflict that exists between the management and the worker. So the Marxist or the trade union members, they criticize Taylor that what he is doing, he is basically manipulating the workers into accepting the capitalist mode of production and putting down their labor for some wages, okay, so that any tendency of revolt, any tendency of conflict against the management does not arise. Okay. Red herring. You can say no, that way. Next criticism was, okay, by the managers. The managers also criticized. Most of the industrial managers, they said that Taylorism has what, or scientific management has increased the role of the managers without consequently increasing his benefit. Unless the manager overperforms under the scientific management, okay, and this overperformance was basically for the workers. Manager would be given salary according to the task. The task was to follow or observe or enforce the scientific management. So manager said that what we were doing earlier, we were getting the same salary. What we are doing today, that is much more complicated, but our salary does not increase. Because earlier the role of manager was this, and today what he has visualized the role of manager is this. So there is not much change in terms of the benefit, but in terms of the effort, okay, many times it has transformed. Managers also, or you can say, they lost the kind of liberty they enjoyed at the workplace. Okay. If you are told that this has to be done only this way, this is the procedure for doing this, and you have to monitor it. Earlier, the manager would tell his own procedure. Do this way, rule of thumb, do that way. Okay, if you don't want, don't do it this way. But now what? It will become the responsibility of the manager to enforce the scientific management principle, and also this scientific management would be enforced on him also. This is the way to monitor, this is the way to observe, this is the way to calculate, and something and something. Okay. The liberty which the managers enjoyed as far as the exercise of authority, that was also restricted, because there will be no discretion under the scientific management. Okay. And likewise, various other sections criticized Taylorism or scientific management of Taylor. But these are the major criticisms. Okay. Economic view of man, anti-humanist or non-humanist, focus only on the discrete aspect of work, focus only on the shop floor level, did not understand the comprehensive nature of organization, did not talk about the structure of organization. Okay. Later theorists are there, number of other theories are there, postmodern theories, okay, or gender theories. Okay. All of them are criticizing Taylor if we take it today, in the today's context. Okay. So gender perspective is criticizing Taylor, that Taylor could not comprehend the requirements or specific requirements which would have been needed by the female workers in the organization. He generalized the scientific management to include all types of workers. Okay. So, postmodernist, okay, they are talking about that Taylor's obsession with rule regulation is what? It is a restriction on human creativity and liberty. Okay. Organization has diversity, so one rule or one model, one framework cannot control everyone. Are you understanding this? So variety of criticisms were leveled, but the truth remains the same, that the Industrial Revolution benefited much from the Taylor. Okay. And the theory benefited much from the criticism. Are you getting? So Taylor benefited the Industrial Revolution positively, or from the benefits, advantages of Taylor led to the advantages to the Industrial Revolution. But the criticism of Taylor led to the advantage of the theoretical development in public administration. So where he was praised, that also benefited. Where he was criticized, that also benefited. Have you understood this much? It's okay. Tomorrow we'll finish the criticism of Taylor and then move to Fayol. Okay. Parallel of contemporary of Taylor. Fayol will be little different from Taylor, because Fayol will be now pure structuralist and functionalist both. Right. You kindly go and review the old notes or the previous classes which we have done. Okay. What was structuralist, what was functionalist, we have discussed that. Structural, functionalist, you kindly go and read it. Okay. Then come tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have a longer class.